Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers Science Academy, Bangalore. This is daily news analysis. Today, that is on the day 25th July 2025, we will discuss some articles which are very important from UPSC prelims, mains as well as interview perspective. So, the first article is from the Hindu editorial, which talks about a very pressing issue, that is the India UK Free Trade Agreement. The India-UK FTA spells a poor deal for public health. We will decode this. The India-UK FTA and the public health implications overshadow the economic gains. According to the author, the India and United Kingdom have signed a free trade agreement on July 24, 2025, officially known as Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. While the deal is expected to bring significant economic benefits, it raises critical public health concerns due to potential increased access to unhealthy food products. Okay, there is more access to unhealthy food products. As a result, there has been an issue raised by the author due to this FTA. Next, the key concerns are influx of HFSS foods. What is HFSS? That is high fat, sugar and salt. The FTA allows tariff-free entry of the UK manufactured food products such as biscuits, chocolates and soft drinks, many of which are high in fat, sugar and salt. These products may become cheaper and more widely consumed, especially with the aggressive advertising leading to long-term health risks. So mainly what the government were looking was towards economic gains. However, this other thought about looking at the public implications. So Mexico's president, post NAFTA, that is North American Free Trade Agreement, Mexico witnessed a spike in imports and consumption of sugary foods and beverages. This led to a surge in obesity and non-communicable diseases, which could only be cured after a policy intervention like soda taxes and warning labels in 2014. Okay, so we can take a book out of Mexico's history, a page out of Mexico's book, and then we can implement in India as well. Comparative regulatory environment. In United Kingdom, there is a strong public health regulations. There is a ban on HFSS ads before 9 p.m. from October 2025 and front of the pack nutrition labeling, that is FOPNL, using a traffic light system for easy consumer interpretation. Do you see these in India? No. These labelings are present at the back of the chocolates or back of the biscuits, and there is no such ban on the HFSS ads. So in India, there is weak and fragmented regulatory systems, and there is no binding restriction on the junk food advertising targeted at children, and there is a reliance on industry self-regulation such as Advertising Standards Council of India, which has been mostly ineffective, and there is celebrity endorsement misled consumers with accountability. This is one of the major issue in India. The food consumption is heavily dependent on the advertisement, and that advertisement is heavily dependent on the celebrity. So these are going to be a bigger issue in India. The UK are going to export these to India while safeguarding their own healthcare because they have a stronger healthcare system. Next, the star rating versus the warning label debate. India has proposed star rating based front of the page labeling, nutrition labeling, but evidence suggests that it is less effective and potentially misleading. And more effective are the clear warning labels like Chile's black octagonal signals, which directly caution about high sugar, high sodium or fat content. Despite proposals in 2022, the Supreme Court directive in 2025, the implementation remains stalled, possibly due to the industry lobby. Industry wants consumers to consume more. If you are going to put a clear like signals which are present on cigarettes, etc., that are present on food items now, then consumers are going to become more aware and they are going to not go for these kind of foods. Lifestyle disease burden in India. Obesity and diet related diseases are on the rise, including among the children. Ultra processed foods and HFSS products in India has shown compound annual growth rate of 13.3% from 2011 to 21. So it is always on the high. The June 2025 position paper by 29 organizations urged for mandatory warning labels on UPF or HFSS items. There is a necessity because India's lifestyle diseases or non-communicable disease burden is increasing. And the larger debate is about the trade versus health. This can be an ethical implication as well. The ethical implication is about this. FTAs, including the upcoming India-European TAPA, may become Trojan horses for NCDs if public health concerns are not properly addressed. The commercial determinants of health, corporate practices that negatively influence health are gaining global attention. Next is way forward. What should be the way forward for India in FTA? The policy recommendations according to the author is finalize FTA with health safeguards included. Implement mandatory warning labels, that is front, and ban on high fat, sugar and salt advertising, especially the children. HFSS boards in schools to promote dietary awareness and regulation on school or college canteen to remove junk food. Finally, public health policymakers must engage proactively in trade negotiations. So, the trade or the free trade agreement between the country should not only focus on the monetary gains or economic gains, but should also focus on health issues. And it should also align with the Economic Survey 24-25 and the dietary guidelines for Indians for a health-oriented food policy. So that is about first article, a very important article which draws attention away from the economic gains or the trade relations. It also brings attention to the public health, which is most of the times neglected. Second is the fault lines in the India's electoral architecture are visible, which is written by Shubhrasta. The context here is, as the Election Commission of India undertakes special intensive revision of electoral rolls in Bihar, allegations of disenfranchisement of migrants, minorities and the poor have reignited deeper questions about the structure and inclusivity of India's electoral architecture. We have thoroughly discussed about the special intensive revision of the Bihar electoral and the issues related to it and the powers of Election Commission and what should be the way forward. If you want to listen to more about this one, go forward and search in our channel about topic of the day, special intensive revision of Bihar. You will get the video. Next, core argument is the debate around voter roll revision in Bihar exposes a structural disconnect between India's electoral laws rooted in post-colonial assumptions of a sedentary society and the realities of a highly mobile, economically precarious population. Electoral inclusion today is constrained not by the citizenship status but by flawed and updated definitions of residency. In the special intensive revision, one of the key issues was the topic of residency. How do you consider residency? If you are going to apply the old age residency norms, then the people who are migrant workers who are staying away from their home states are going to lose citizenship, not the citizenship but the electoral franchise because of the ground of residency, because they will be staying in another state. Next, the key issues raised here as structural disenfranchisement via residency. That is, the RPA, that is Representation of People's Act of 1950, is based on the assumption that citizens vote where they reside. A notion suitable for the 1950s but not for the present, because in the 1950s there were less economic opportunities and there was obviously a lesser migration. So many people used to stay at a particular area or a particular city and they used to vote there. But now the context has changed. That is, there is more internal migration, there is more external migration as well. The internal migrants now make up over 37% of India's population. In Bihar, the figure is even higher because most of the Biharis or the people from Bihar move away from Bihar to other states in search of work. Over 1.2 million names have been deleted from Bihar's electoral rolls in 2025, largely for non-residency during the verification, especially in high migrant districts like Gopalganj and Sitamarhi. So 10.2 lakh people just lost their electoral rights because of their residency. And the citizenship versus the residency conflict. That is, citizenship is a legal identity under the constitution. Residency, however, is an operative basis for voting eligibility in a constituency. Migrants fall into a liminal space, legally Indian but without an electoral voice, where they work or live. So, if you say what is liminal, there is a gray area or a hidden area between the two extremes. Here, you are a citizen under the constitution, but here you are not eligible for voting because of residency. Okay, and the migrants, they come in between this. That is, they are citizens of citizens of India, but they do not have the right to vote because of residency. Next, the institutional limitations and the minimalism of ECI. The ECI's role is bound by law, but its response has been administrative minimalism. Rigid compliance with the procedures over substantive inclusion. Election Commission of India is independent in nature, and though it is bound by the laws of the constitution or the laws of the government, that is Representative of People Act and the Article 324 to 329, which talks about Election Commission of India, therefore, even though they are independent, they are bound by these provisions of the constitution as well as the provisions of legal laws. But being an independent organization, it should go beyond just the procedural adherence. It should go beyond procedure and should talk about substantive inclusion. Instead of procedural exclusion, it should bring substantive inclusion. It has not advocated vigorously for reforms despite experiencing the problems firsthand. And then there is the complicity of the politicians or the political complicity. Political actors exploit disenfranchisement as a mobilization narrative rather than help voters navigate the claims and objections process. So there is a tug of war between the government and the opposition in Bihar. The opposition is arguing that it is a deliberate attempt to disenfranchisement Biharis, while the government says that it is not the deliberate attempt, but we are doing it as per the constitution. That there has to be special intensive revision in particular areas and particular years after particular time. Voter education is severely lacking. That is, 60% of Bihar voters are unaware of the correction window for migrants, and it's under 25%. There is certain correction window where they can go to the election commission or the election commission personals and change their residency to their own state. And among the migrants, it is only 25%. The only 25% know about this correction window, whereas in more 60% of areas do not know about this correction window. Next, international best practices that can be followed here is the perceived tension between role integrity and inclusiveness is avoidable, as shown by the global examples. In USA, that is, absentee and mail-in ballots allow non-resident citizens to vote in their home districts. So, even if you are non-resident in a particular state, you can vote through absentee or mail-in boxes. And Philippines allows overseas absent voting for 1.8 million workers. And Australia uses mobile polling stations in remote mobile communities, achieving more than 90% voter turnout. These practices demonstrate the importance of political will as well as institutional innovation, which is obviously lacking in India. Recommendation is legal and policy reforms, that is, amend electoral laws to reflect the realities of circular and seasonal migration, and introduce absentee or remote voting mechanism for interim migrants, similar to the lines of Philippines or Australia, and bring administrative innovation, that is, pilot alternative models of voter registration and outreach, especially in high migration areas. Then improve communication strategies and simplify voter claims procedures. Next is strengthening Election Commission of India's advocacy role. The Election Commission of India must go beyond passive implementation and become a proactive advocate for reform. Need is role integrity must be redefined to mean inclusive accuracy and not mere deletions. So, in conclusion, India's electoral system must evolve to address the invincible exclusion fears faced by the mobile populations. Upholding the spirit of universal adult franchise demands a shift from rigid followance to more flexible, participatory, and right-based approach. Okay. Next, a very important article. Like many photo materials were there, you can note down those materials. Next. Okay, there is an article about adoption process. I will do a separate video about adoption process in the topic of the day. We can discuss it in detail there. Moving on to a very interesting article which you would not be reading if it wasn't for explanation here. It talks about an anime. Okay, what is anime? Anime is animation made by Japanese. Okay, this anime is not just ordinary cartoons. There are various themes which are covered here, from the love, from tragedy, from wars, from everything. Everything under the sun and sky is covered here. So one of the most important anime in the recent years was Vinland Saga. This article explains the anime of Vinland Saga and certain themes which are important from UPSC perspective as well, which can be used in your essay or in your ethics. That is why I have chosen to discuss this essay or this topic. The Gospel of Vinland Saga in its life-changing meditations or mediations on pacifism. What is Vinland Saga? Vinland Saga, a manga's pacifist vision amid a violent world. What is manga? Manga is nothing but comics written in Japan. Okay, comics in Japan are called as manga. The context is, with the release of its first chapter in July 2025, Makoto Yukimura's Vinland Saga concludes a two-decade-long literary and visual journey. Framed initially as a Viking epic, it ultimately evolves into a moral treatise on pacifism, exploring themes of revenge, redemption, justice, and emotional healing. Narrative and the thematic evolution. From violence to non-violence. The story begins with the Hamlet-like vengeance arc where the protagonist, that is Thorfinn, seeks to avenge his father. Gradually, Thorfinn renounces violence, shifting from swordplay to soul-searching. He, as a kid, witnesses his father being killed by another person called as another person in the anime. I'm not able to recall that name. He kills his father, and Thorfinn then joins their journey with the sole aim of killing the person who killed his father. But over the period of time, what he does is he shifts from a warrior attitude, he shifts from his swords to soul searching. Askeladd was the person who killed his father, and he wanted to kill Askeladd, but over the period of a journey, Askeladd is killed by someone else. As a result, he loses his sole purpose or the ikigai. The ikigai in Japan is the calling. The calling was for him is to kill Askeladd, who was the killer of his father, was the revenge. But he dies himself in a particular war, in a certain war, and later that Thorfinn loses his ikigai. The sole purpose was to kill someone, and he lost it. And after that, he started doing soul searching. His dreams of Vinland. What is Vinland? A peaceful utopia where no one owns another and violence is unnecessary. There is a final dialogue which is said by Thorfinn, which has become a famous meme as well. That is, I have no enemies. A radical refrain. This phrase, uttered by Thorfinn's father and later by Thorfinn himself, becomes the manga's centerpiece. It draws philosophical inspiration from Buddhist metta, that is universal goodwill, Christian forgiveness, Stoic understanding and restraint, and post-colonial critique of othering that normalizes violence. These four keywords can be used in your ethics answer. That is why I am covering this article. It is not just for the purpose of seeing, it is also for the purpose of your UPSC preparation. And the moral and philosophical depth in this anime is huge. The pacifist manifesto in manga form. Yukimura's work stands apart from the conventional battle-heavy narratives by centering empathy over dominance. His personal pacifism, rejecting violence even under the state coercion, lends authenticity to the story's tone. The manga certainly critiques clannish nationalism, imperialism, and militarism, offering instead a vision of transformative forgiveness. So, it is a criticism of nationalism, imperialism, and militarism, and it focuses on shifting to transformative forgiveness. How forgiveness is the most famous virtue. Emotional and psychological resonance. Readers relate to Thorfinn's guilt, grief, and moral reckoning, with many citing the series as a healing influence. It nurtures healthy masculinity, encouraging empathy, reflection, and accountability over aggression. In the present society, there is a false sense of hypermasculinity. What is this hypermasculinity? The hypermasculinity says that men should not cry, men are tough, okay, men are the breadwinners, and women should follow men. There is a hypermasculinity which limits emotional expression of men. As a result, there is a rising cases of depression among the men in the world. Depression which is caused by hypermasculinity which is present in the present society. However, this anime is proving otherwise. What it does is it provides certain moral reckoning, especially for the people going through hypermasculinity or going through depression. It provides a healthy masculinity, it encourages empathy, reflection, and accountability. Masculinity is not being tough, instead, it is in being empathetic. The cultural impact of the anime or manga was a global fandom rooted in reflection. Fans engage with Vinland Saga as more than entertainment, and it has become a philosophical anchor and emotional support. I myself had used this as an anecdote in one of my essay in 2021, and I had scored 134 marks in that year mains. So I'm saying you can use such kind of themes in your essay as well, which will add certain emotional depth. It brings more emotionality out of you, because you are the person who has read it, you are the person who has understood it. So that is why I'm discussing here. Online forums, essays, and tributes celebrate its message of hope in humanity even amid despair. Unique among modern manga epics. Alongside Berserk and Vagabond, Vinland Saga forms a trio of seinen masterpieces that explore violence and redemption. Unlike the others, Vinland Saga has reached its full conclusion, cementing its legacy. So, what is its relevance in the contemporary times? Amid modern geopolitical violence, nationalism, and dehumanization, Vinland Saga offers a counter narrative of peace and coexistence. It doesn't offer simplistic solutions, but rather invites a deep reflection on breaking the cycle of vengeance, reimagining justice, and choosing humanity over hatred. People who are preparing for UPSC can go for reading this Vinland Saga or Vagabond or Berserk. These mangas or these animes are not just the animes of fight, they also provide an alternative on our philosophy as well. You can use certain topics or certain quotes from this or manga in your essay or ethics, which is going to add some value to it. So, Vinland Saga transcends its Viking roots to become a universal parable on non-violence and moral courage. In an age marred by conflict, Yukimura's vision that peace is both possible and worth striving for becomes a secular scripture of hope. The dream of Vinland, like peace itself, may lie beyond the horizon, but the journey towards it defines our shared humanity. A very important article and a very personally significant manga. So you can go for reading it. Next, in the prelims pointer, there is an article about Central Board of Direct Taxes. Why it was in news? CBDT is to intensify crackdown on tax evasion using AI and data analytics. Okay, so this is a positive outcome of the deep tech. So whenever you talk about the applications of deep tech, now you can bring a new dimension, that is addressing the cyber frauds. What is CBDT? It is a statutory body under the Central Board of Revenue Act 1963. It functions under the Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance. Administers direct taxes like income tax and corporate tax. Structure is it is headed by a chairman and 6 members, overall IRS officers, belonging to income tax, legislation and computerization, revenue, personal and vigilance, investigation and audit and judicial. Key functions is policy formulation and administration of direct taxes, oversees income tax department, proposes tax law amendments and collection targets. And the recent focus is AI and big data to detect evasion and mismatches in reported income. Promotes faceless assessments, improve transparency and taxpayer trust. Next is about another release pointer, that is UK India Young Professional Schemes. What is this? UK opened its final 2025 visa ballot under the scheme Indian youth aged between 18 to 30 to live, work or study in the UK for 2 years. Background is it was announced in India UK Migration and Mobility Memorandum of Understanding in May 2021. Officially launched in February 2023. Key features: the age is 18 to 30 years, duration stay in UK for up to 2 years. Flexibility can enter or exit UK anytime during the visa validity. Selection via ballot system before applying for visa. Eligibility is Indian national between 18 to 30 years of age, and they should have a bachelor's degree or higher, and there should be at least $2,530 in savings, no dependent children, and not a previous holder of this youth mobility scheme visa. What can you do? What you can do in UK? You can study, may need ATA certificate for sensitive subjects, and then work in most jobs. Be self-employed with conditions, that is, there has to be rented premises, equipment of less than $5,000, and no employment euros. Sorry, no employees are there, and restrictions are visa not extendable beyond 2 years, no public benefits, and family is not included. So if you want to take your family there, you have to apply separately. No work in sports, including coaching. So this is about UK young professionals and all the other articles which have been discussed today. So this ends our discussion of the news analysis for the day. If you like the video and if you feel you got something out of the video, then please hit the like button, comment on it, and also share with your friends. And if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel and also click on the bell icon so that you don't miss any notification. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind.